بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. In Ziyarat Ashura, we recite this sentence where we say يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. We wish that we were with you, Ya Aba Abdullah, you and your companions and your family on the day of Ashura. We wish we were with you so we would be victorious and win the shahada and the ajr and the status that you have received in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We wish that we were in Karbala or Iraq that 1400 years ago and we would have helped him. But if we really think about it, if we were really there in that time, like in the city of Kufa, for example, how sure are we that we would have went to help Imam Hussein in Karbala? Could you please keep the children quiet? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
When we ask, we pray for Imam Zaman, our 12th Imam, to reappear, we are no different from the people of Kufa who asked Imam Hussein to come and help them out. How are we different? How are we so sure that we would have helped Imam Hussein in those harsh and difficult situations? Muslim ibn Aqil had gathered 20,000 followers in Kufa, and suddenly, where do they go? What happens to them? They wanted Imam Hussein, those 30,000, but things changed, situations changed. It's not that easy. Why did they want Imam Hussein to come to Kufa? Because they had seen the government and rule and justice of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib in the city of Kufa in those 4.5 years where the government of Imam Ali, there was no poor and no poverty. Because when he see an old man begging, he said, "What is this I see?" And they told him, he's a Christian man. He's not in the list of the salary we give from the Baytul Mal. The Christians are not given from the Baytul Mal and the salary and the treasury. He said, this man has worked for you when he was young, and now that he has become old, you forget about him? Give him from the Baytul Mal, Christian or Muslim, Muslim or non-Muslim. They all shall receive. No one shall beg in my country. In my government, I will not accept poor people. When he doesn't accept people begging, means there's no poverty to the limit that you have to beg for food or money. That's what it means. They had seen the justice he had done between the Arab and the Ajam, the Arab and non-Arab, right? Because the Arabs were happy in the time of the previous caliphs. But when Amir al-Mu'mineen came, he would give the Arab and non-Arab equal from the Baytul Mal. And the Arab will protest, saying, "Why have you given us the same as the Ajam and the non-Arab? Why?" He said, you're equal. Why should I give you more? He said, the other Khalifa would give us more and they would receive half. This is an insult to us. The Imam would give the servant and the master the same. And the masters, his followers and lovers, those who voted for the Imam to become the Khalifa, they would come and protest and complain. How can you give my servant the same you have given me? This is an insult to me to give us the same thing. So you had many people, the powerful, the leaders, they weren't, that happy with Amir al-Mu'mineen gone. But when Amir al-Mu'mineen was ruling, but the majority of people were pleased and satisfied because they saw justice and they saw that they were treated all the same, and they saw that the opposition, they're not killed or beheaded or imprisoned like Muawiyah would do. Because after Amir al-Mu'mineen was martyred and Muawiyah came to power, he started killing from the Kufans, and he started prisoning them and torturing them, and he took it very harsh on them. So they wanted Imam Hussein to come to revive that government, that justice and the idalah of Amir al-Mu'mineen. They wanted that. So they called Imam because they were in trouble, they were in difficult situations. But they turned when situations became harsh and difficult, they changed. So when we ask for our 12th Imam to reappear and to come up to us, we pray all the time, we call for him to come. It is because of our problems that we call him. We want him to come and solve our problems, give us a better life. So how are we different from the people of Kufa? They called their Imam, and we are calling our Imam. And this brings another question. It brings up another question, that some people who do not love the followers of Ahlul Bayt, they claim that, you see the Shia crying and Ashura and hitting themselves and beating their chests and all that lamentation. It's because they killed their Imam and now they regret it. They're asking for forgiveness. They killed him. You see, look at the people of Kufa and Iraq. They're Shia, right? Kufa, Najaf, they're Shia. They called Imam Hussein, the son of the Prophet, to Kufa and Iraq, and they killed him, and now they are doing this in regret and sorrow of why their ancestors did this. It's been many years because they killed him. So this brings up a question that, have the Shia killed Imam Hussein, the Kufa? Well, if anyone knows just a little bit history, they would know that the people of Kufa, they weren't Shia at that time. It was different than today. Shia was a very big city, unlike Kufa today. And at that time, they weren't Shia. The majority weren't Shia. It was after Allam al-Hilli, where the people of Kufa, Iraq, they became Shia. It was as he had, it was the Mongol king, the Mughal, Khudabandeh, who was ruling Iraq. They ruled Iran and Iraq and other countries for years, and they became Muslims. They entered Islam, and so they were following the mainstream Islam. What's the mainstream Islam? The majority of Muslims, they are from Ahl Sunnah, right? So the kings, they saw, wow, this culture, this civilization, the Islamic civilization is very advanced, and they didn't have that. So they became Muslims and they followed the mainstream Islam. And one day the king, he divorced his wife 3 times. طَلَّقْتُكِ ثَلَاثًا. He divorced her 3 times. And you know, if you divorce your wife 3 times, then you cannot return to her unless some conditions have been available. That you cannot return to her if you divorce her 3 times. We don't have that in madhab of Ahlul Bayt. We do, but not in one majlis, not at once. You cannot say طَلَّقْتُكِ ثَلَاثًا. You have to divorce her, marry her, divorce her, marry her, divorce her for 3 times. Then you cannot return to her. That is the hukum, the verdict in the madhab of Ahlul Bayt. But according to their madhab and fiqh, if you can divorce her right away. طَلَّقْتُكِ 3 times. ثَلَاثًا خلاص. It's finished. You can't return. So he was in an argument with his wife. He loved her a lot. And suddenly it came out of his mouth, you're divorced, طَلَّقْتُكِ 3 times, لَا رَجْعَةَ لَكِ. You cannot return, I won't return to you. Then he regretted what he had done. When he calmed down, he regretted, what can I do? So he asked the mufti, he said, no, you can't. You cannot return. He said, look, I want a solution. Find me another mufti, another scholar. So he brought all the ulama and madahib of Ahlul Sunnah before the Hanafis, Malikis, and Hanbalis and Shafi'is. He brought them and they said, what is the verdict according to your opinion, according to your fiqh and jurisprudence, what do you think? They said, well, you can't return. You've divorced her 3 times. Then one of the advisors of the king, he said, there is a 5th madhab and sect in Islam, which are the Shia, followers of Ahlul Bayt, and we could ask them, maybe they have a solution. I hear they don't take it that hard. So he says, yes, who is their leader, who is the scholar? He said, they say, Allama al-Hilli. He's in Hilla, in Iraq. So he says, call him and we will have a gathering with all the ulama gathered of all the madahib and sects. They will be here and I want him to come and we will see what happens. We'll discuss it. Because the scholars of the other madahib said, don't bring him. They are deceived people. They are not Muslims and they are not. Don't bring this guy. But he says, let us hear it. And you are here. You're listening. If we see that what he says isn't reasonable, we won't accept. So they call and they invite Allam al-Hilli from Bihilla to go to Baghdad, as I assume would be his capital. So when he entered the court and the room where they were sitting, they tried not to leave him any seat to sit, a place. They filled all the seats so he would be embarrassed. Their only seats were the next ones to the king, the right and the left. So Allam al-Hali, he took his shoes, instead of leaving them behind the door, he took his shoes with him and he put them under his arms and he went towards the king and sat beside the king. And they said, "Oh king, look at this man. He's insulting you. He's sitting beside you. He has no respect for you." So Allama said, "No, I do, but I'm your guest, and it's not nice for you for me to sit on the ground. And I thought you would be embarrassed if I do so." So he brought a good reason that this is the only empty seat, so I should sit here. And the king said, "Okay, why?" Then they said, "Look at him. He's brought his shoes with him. That's another insult. You sit beside the king with your shoes. Why have you done this?" The king asks him, "What is this act? How do you justify it?" He said, "Well, I've heard that Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal stole the shoes of the Prophet, and I fear the Hanbalis will steal my shoe." The Hanbalis, they protested and said, "What are you saying? Ahmad ibn Hanbal died more than 100 years after the Prophet. How? He's lying. He said, well, what are you saying? Ahmad ibn Hanbal, when did he die? 100 a few years after the Prophet. How could he have stolen the Prophet's shoes? And he said, no, I'm sorry, it was a mistake. It was Imam Shafi'i. He stole the Prophet's shoes. The Shafi'is protested, what are you saying? Shafi'i died 90 years after the Prophet. Maybe, something like that. I don't remember the dates. Then he said, no, it was my mistake. It was the Hanafis. Imam Abu Hanifa, he stole the Prophet's shoes. And they said, what are you saying? Abu Hanifa died like 80 years, something like that. After the Prophet, you're lying? And then he said, well, it was then Malik, Imam Malik. He stole the Prophet's shoes. And they said, well, Malik died like 70, 60 years after the Prophet. So they all protested and they started accusing him of lying, being a liar. Then he said, O king, have you heard what they said? That all their imams came after the Prophet 100 and so years, and my imam was living with the Prophet. So who do you think has the knowledge of the Prophet? We that follow the Imam, Amir al-Mu'mineen and Ahl al-Bayt, and receive the words, the narrations of the Prophet from them, or those who came 100 years after the Prophet? Who has the most authentic and reliable narrations to your opinion? He said, that is a very good argument. Ahsant, barakallah. What do you think about my divorce situation? He said, your divorce is, it's okay. You could return to her. It won't. First of all, you have to have two witnesses that are adil. When you divorce, one of the conditions is that two righteous and fair mu'mineen have to be present and witness that divorce. Were they present? He said no. You can't do it in 3 times divorce in one majlis. He said thank you, and he became a follower of Ahlul Bayt in that majlis. And he announced it publicly to all of them that this is the madhab and the sect I want to follow. So anyways, after that, when a ruler, النَّاسُ عَلَى دِينِ مُلُوكِهِمْ, right? People follow the religion and faith of their kings. The kings and the leaders have the power to implement their ideas and faiths either with force or, propaganda or media or whatever they have the power and money to do so. So it was after that the king forced the madhab of tashayyu' to be the official sect and religion in his city and his kingdom. So after that, gradually Iraq became to be a Shia kingdom, and some other progresses were made, but it was after that was the point it started. They became to become followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Sallallahu alayhi wa. So the people of Kufa at that time, they weren't Shia in the sense that we say today. Of course there were Shia. Some say that Shia they came in the 4th century, 400 years after the Prophet. From Sheikh al-Mufid, it started from then that the title Shia, they distinguished between Sunni and Shia. It was then. And the Safawis, they gave them power, and that's a lie. Because Shia, the title was given to them by the Prophet himself. Aliyun wa shi'atuhu. Right? We have many hadith that the Prophet says, Aliyun wa shi'atuhu. Ali and his followers, because Shia means follower. And it was after the Prophet passed away where we had a dispute between the Sahaba and the followers of the Prophet. Some of them said, we have to follow what the Prophet said, and he appointed Ali ibn Abi Talib, and the others, some were followed the other Khalifa. So we had, that was the point where we actually had examples of Shia in the community. And they were, and still, although we did have Shia from that time, but in that time, the city of Kufa, they're right in a way of saying that the title Shia wasn't known. They didn't use the title. The title wasn't used. You couldn't differentiate between Shia and Sunni that easily. It wasn't like, are you Shia? No, I'm Sunni. No, there wasn't that title. Neither did they use Sunni, neither did they use Shia in that sense. It wasn't that popular. The Sunni title came afterwards, maybe. So it was only the difference between them was this, that some believed that Ali ibn Abi Talib was appointed as the successor of the Prophet by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he and his 11 descendants were the Imams named by the Prophet. If they believed in this, they were Shia. And if they didn't believe in this, they weren't Shia. So it wasn't that clear who was Shia and who wasn't, but there were people who believed in this idea that the Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, when they invited him, those that believed that he was God's representative and obeying him is wajib, is an obligation, they were Shia in the meaning that we are talking today. But the problem was that the majority, they didn't believe in this. That wasn't their belief. They knew Imam Hussein as Sayyida Shababi Ahl al-Jannah, the masters of the youth of paradise. That was what they knew. I mean, those that believed in Hussein was good and going to paradise, that was the thing they heard from the Prophet. Sayyida Shababi Ahl al-Jannah. Imam Hussein, the Prophet, that those they had heard what the Prophet maybe had said about Imam Hussein, some things like that. Some of them, they loved Imam Hussein because he was the grandson of the Prophet, and he reminded them of the Prophet. So loving Imam Hussein doesn't mean that you follow him and you obey him and you defend him. Today, when we have Christians that love Imam Hussein and do what they do for him, just like we do, or from other schools of thought, Ahlul Sunnah, those who love Imam Hussein, that is very good, and we appreciate it, and may Allah guide them to the path of Hussein. But they lack something, right? Doesn't the hadith, the Prophet say, the Prophet said, it is mentioned in many sources, "Man lam ya'rif imam zamanihi mata mitatan jahiliyyah." Whoever does not know who the Imam of his time is, they will die a death of the people before Islam. The pagans that were living before Islam in the time of Jahiliyyah, the ignorance, the era of ignorance, Jahiliyyah, he will die like them, meaning he won't be in the religion of Islam. He won't be counted as a Muslim. Whoever does not know who the Imam of his time is will die a non-Muslim. And knowing your Imam doesn't mean to love him only. I love Hussein. No. Knowing your Imam means that you know this person is appointed by God and the Prophet of God to be the representative of Allah on earth, and is the Khalifa and the successor of Rasulullah, and obeying him is wajib. He is wajibut ta'ah. It is an obligation to obey him. That is knowing, that is a minimum of the minimum knowledge you have to know about your Imam. That's the knowledge that you need at least just to not to die la tamut mita jahiliyyah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So that they didn't have. So you can't say the people of Kufa were Shia and they killed Imam Hussein, because they didn't believe that Imam Hussein was the Imam in the sense we believe. So what happened? Why did they turn, and why did they kill Imam Hussein? And where were the Shia? First of all, there were Shia in Kufa, but they couldn't come out of Kufa. I don't want to give an excuse, but the situation in Kufa was this, that when people like Habib ibn Madahir and Muslim ibn Awsaja, the Imam sent them letters, right? Habib was sent a letter at the door of the house, and when he opened the door, the messenger was gone, nobody there. He ran away. And the messenger was caught, and Habib, when he got the letter, he ate it. He swallowed it, the letter, a small piece. He chewed on it and swallowed it. The messenger that sent the letter was caught by Ibn Ziyad, and he was tortured and he was killed. Habib, where was he when Muslim ibn Aqil rose in Kufa? Where was Muslim ibn Awsaja? They were outside of Kufa, in the rurals around the suburbs, and they were collecting people, men, supporters, money, horses, sword, weapons for Muslim ibn Aqil. And when they found out that Kufa, Muslim was killed, their tribes, they hid them. They didn't allow them to expose themselves and come in the public. So when Habib was invited, and they sensed that he is going to support Hussein, his tribe, Bani Asad, came to stop him. They said, "Are you going to support Hussein?" He said, No, I'm not. He feared his tribe. Not that they were the enemies, but it was the policy and strategy of Ibn Ziyad in Kufa. When he came into Kufa, there were 20,000 supporters of Muslim ibn Aqil, but he used the carrot and stick strategy. Khawf wa tama'. First, he brought the leaders of the tribes and gave them a lot of money from the treasury, Baytul Mal. Then he used the stick, Ru'b, al-Khawf. He threatened them. He said, "Do you know that the army of Sham, the army of Yazid, will reach the city of Kufa in a few days?" He was lying. There was no army coming from Sham. He lied to them. He said, "The army of Sham is coming. I want you to announce this to all the people of Kufa. I want them to know. The army of Sham is coming. They're reached here, and whoever supports Muslim, they will be beheaded, and their belongings will be confiscated. They will be taken from them." So fear and terror was the way that the supporters, they left Muslim. That is why they left him. And also the carrot, where he bribed them and gave money to whoever would help and leave Muslim behind. And after that Muslim was killed, there was martial law in Kufa. I mean, the city, it had gates and they had walls, the cities at that time, and no one could enter from the gates that easily. So many Shia were inside Kufa, but they couldn't come out, and they were scared. Maybe they could, like Muslim, find a way, but they were scared. Their tribes, the tribe of Muslim, won't let him go. He had to go secretly at night and send his servant with his sword and horse in front of him. Then he would go see him where they had appointed, and they were supposed to meet. So that the situations of Kufa were not easy. And people were scared. Why? Because one of the things that Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad said was that whoever follows Muslim and Hussein, their salary from the Baytul Mal will be cut. No more salary, no more money. Because Muslims, they would annually or monthly, or I don't know how it was, receive a portion from the treasury, the Baytul Mal, from the zakat, and they would gather. It would be given amongst all the Muslims. They said, no share for you, those who support Muslim and Imam Hussein. So they were afraid, how, if they cut our money, I mean, that's a problem. So the thing is that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, one of the main reasons that they left him was the dunya, right? Attachment to the dunya. The dunya and the world, the materialistic world, and money and wealth. It was the thing that drove people away from him, and it also drove enemies towards him. It did both. You had the people of Kufa who were afraid to join him because of their salaries would be cut. The leaders of the tribes were given money, so they won't let their followers and the people in that tribe go to fight with Hussein. It was money, mostly money. And then you had people that were afraid, they were obeying orders. You see, like Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, he was a good man, but he said, I'm obeying orders, that's it. When he stopped Imam Hussein from entering Kufa, and he wouldn't let Imam Hussein leave, he said, I have orders. Like they say, ma'muran ba ma'zur. I have orders and I am excused. I have an excuse. It's not my decision. Because you're afraid to lose your job. That's the least thing. Or maybe punishment. But that's one of the things that we fear today. We fear to lose our jobs if we want to follow our religion. You have a job, a good job that is against the Islamic law. And you say, how can I change my job? I won't find a job that easily. I worked hard for this. They say that money is not halal. That job is not an Islamic lawful legal job according to your religion. But he says, I mean, you can't find a good job in this country. That is one of the things, and those people, they come and commemorate Ashura and Muharram, and they weep for Imam Hussein, and they call Imam Zaman to come. So how are they going to follow Imam Zaman and help him? And if they were at the time of Imam Ashura in the year 61 after Hijrah, how would they help Imam Hussein? How do they say La laytana kunna ma'akum? How would they say that? He can't leave his job for the sake of his religion and belief. So how is he different from Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi when he said, I have orders? And Hurr had to make a very difficult decision on the day of Ashura. He was thinking about it for days to make that decision and come and help Imam Hussein. You have people who won't go to Hajj because of their job. I've seen some. He says, I have a shop, I have customers. If I go to Hajj and close the shop, or if I'm not present, I will lose my customers. They will go to another grocery, another bakery. And you tell them, brother, aren't you mustati'? Isn't it wajib for you to go to Hajj? Because any Muslim, man or woman, that has the amount of money needed to go to Hajj, it's an obligation that he goes that year. He cannot delay it another year. And if he does, he has sinned. And if he loses his wealth, it will be an obligation upon him until the rest of his life. And you see people know, they don't care. They have an agenda, a plan for that money. How much does it cost to go from the US?
7,000 from here.
7,000. So if you have 7,000, you are mustati and you have to go to Hajj the year that you have that money. And there's no excuse about it that I have plans for this money, I want to do this and that. This is a test. You will be tested. Will I go to Hajj because Allah says it's wajib for you to go in if you have that 7,000? Or not? Or you're attached to it, you have plans, because everyone has an excuse, a good excuse, like Hura did. Or you have another person that came with Imam Hussein alayhi salam to Karbala, like Tiramah. He was a poet, he was a good man, he was a follower of Imam Hussein. And when he saw Imam Hussein on the way to Kufa, and he heard what Imam Hussein will do, he said, I will join you in Kufa. I will join you, I will come to your aid. But there's one condition and problem I have, and that's the merchandise I have with me right now. He was a merchant, tajir, he had mal tijara, bada'a, items and products with him. He said, my merchandise will be looted and taken if I come to you and fight. Let me take it to my family in Kufa or wherever he was, and I will return to you. So he took it to his family, and when he came to Karbala, it was too late. The Imam was killed. He was a Shi'i. He loved Imam Hussein, but he was attached to that wealth and that money. He couldn't just forget about it. That little attachment, brothers and sisters, we don't have that. I mean, we love Imam Hussein, we do anything for him, but we all have those attachments to the dunya and to our jobs and to our wealth, that if we were at that time, we would either, the best, case would be, we would be like Tirammah. We would say, yes, I will come to your aid, just give me a few days to come, and we'll come, it's too late. That's the best scenario for us who have attachments, well, even if they're very little and few attachments. That's the best scenario I could think of. You have people that would leave Imam Hussein just for these reasons, right? Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So if you want to say labbaik to your Imam, Sahib al-Amri wa Zaman, you should not have attachments to the dunya, because these attachments, they prevent you. And if you were on that day, on the day of Ashura, attachments to the dunya, they would also have prevented you from joining Imam Hussein and helping him. And you find that the hadith says, حُبُّ الدُّنْيَا رَأْسُ كُلِّ خَطِيئًا. The love of dunya, worshipping the dunya, the materialistic world, it's the root of every mistake and sin. Every mistake and sin, according to hadith, is because of the love you have for the pleasures and wealth and the materials of this world, the maddiyat, everything in the dunya, and what you love for it. This is what drives you to sin and do mistakes and be deceived or deviated from the right path. Al-inhiraf. Sababuhu, what? حب الدنيا نستجير بالله. And those who fought Imam Hussein alayhi salam on the day of Ashura, they fought him because of dunya. The main reason was dunya, right? Yes, we have people said نقتلك بغضا منا لأبيك. We kill you because of the grudge we have over your father. But I mean, that wasn't enough. It was also the reward that was promised to those who would fight. Whoever won't fight, their salary would be cut, no salary. So they went and fighted. Maybe some of them just stood back at the end and they didn't fight. Like we have narrations, some said in Karbala, we didn't throw a stone or rock, let alone fight and hold a sword or spear or arrow. We didn't do anything. But the hadith that says they will go to Jahannam and hell just for being there in that army. That's enough. They just wanted to be on the safe side, to have a good life. No problems. They didn't want any problems. Like Hurr ibn Yazid, the other person, Ubaydullah ibn Yazid al-Ju'fi. The Imam, he came out of Kufa outside just to relieve himself from the problems in Kufa, and then the Imam suddenly comes to him and says, come and help us. He says, no, I'm not looking for problem. You can have my horse, my sword. They're a very good horse, a good sword, but I can't, sorry, I can't come. He wasn't looking for problems. He wanted to have a peaceful life. That is another attachment to the dunya. Peace, looking for peace. We don't look for troubles in this world. We do whatever it takes to avoid problems and troubles, even if it's against our religion and our faith. So the enemies were driven by money and rewards and promises to be given to them. And you find Umar ibn Sa'd is the only reason that he came to Karbala. He said that Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad had promised him the government of Ray in Tehran, Iran. He promised him the government of Ray. And the Imam, he came and talked to him on Tasu'ah, the day before Ashura, and told him, what is it you want? Why are you fighting me? He said, to be honest, I want the government of Ray. Very bad. He said, I'll give you money, I'll give you all the lands and properties I have in different places. He said, no, and that will not suffice. I want Ray. I want the government of Ray. I want to be the governor of that city. And whatever the Imam told him, I will give you, he didn't accept. And it's not going to be the one that I'm promised. How can I forget the government of Ray when it was my wish and my umniya? I always longed for it. How can I forget about it? So he kills the Imam just because of that. The Imam told him, you will not eat from the wheat of Ray. You will not eat from it. And he didn't. Ubaydullah didn't give him. He lied to him, he tricked him, he didn't give it to him. Because the Imam, of course, he prayed that he won't be given. So they did what they did to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein on the day of Ashura. And they looted the camps of Abi Abdullah on such a day like tonight, like this day. They looted the camps and took whatever they could from Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And they even took the clothes of Abi Abdullah, not only his armor, but that shirt that he had wanted and he wore so they wouldn't undress him, the shirt that was ripped. He ripped it himself with his dagger so anyone wouldn't want to take it. But even that shirt was taken from him. After Imam Hussein was killed, what did they do? They looted the camps and tents of Abi Abdullah. They came and took the earrings And the khalkhal from the girls, whatever they had, they would take the earrings and rip their ears. A girl narrates in Karbala, one of the girls on that day says, a man came to me, one of the enemy, and he was crying, and he was taking the anklet and khalkhal out of my leg, and he was crying, and I would tell him, oh man, why are you crying? And he said, because I am taking the ornaments and khalkhal of the daughters of the Prophet, and that makes me cry. He said, so why are you doing it if you know it's wrong? He said, because if I don't do it, another person will take it. So why will eventually they will take it from you? So why shouldn't it be me? Let me take it instead. So they come and they take whatever they could, even the scarves and hijab of the ladies. They would take from their heads the abaya, they would pull from their heads. So what happened on that day after they looted the camps? The Umar ibn Sa'd, he said, علي بمشعل من نار لأحرق بيوت الظالمين. Bring me fire so I will set the tents on fire. فأضرم النار في المخيم. ففررن بنات رسول الله وأطفاله والتجأوا إلى عمتهم زينب. When they set the tents on fire, all the girls and women ran. Where do they go? They go to Zainab. They all went to Zainab. And what did Zainab do? She came to the Imam Zainul Abidin, and he was sick, lying on the ground. She said to him, يا بقية الماضين وثمال الباقين قد أضربوا النار في مضاربنا فما رأيك فينا. Oh, the remainder of our men, they have set the tents on fire. What should we do? The Imam said to them, قال يا عم عليكن بالفرار. Run out of the tents into the desert away from the man. ففررن بنات رسول الله باكيات نادبات. So they started running and the tents were on fire. Hamid ibn Muslim says that when the tents were set on fire, I saw a little girl. Her dress was catching on fire and I wanted to help her. So I ran towards her and I turned the fire down and I turned it out. And I asked her, who are you, little girl? قالت يا شيخ هل قرأت القرآن? Have you read the Quran, oh man? I said بلى, yes, I've read the Quran. قالت يا شيخ أقرأت قوله تعالى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر? Have you read this verse where Allah says, do not oppress the orphan? I said بلى قرأت ذلك, yes, I have read it. قالت يا شيخ, if you ask who I am the orphan of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. أنا يتيمة أبي عبد الله. And then another one of the enemy, he narrates and he says, رأيت امرأة جليلة واقفة بباب الخيمة. I saw a respected woman standing by one of the tents which was set on fire. What was she doing? Around her was all fire and she was about to be set on fire. وهي تارة تنظر يمنة ويسرى وتارة تدخل في تلك الخيمة وتخرج. She would look on her left and on her right, and she would enter the tent and come out. I said to her, "Oh lady, what are you doing here? The tents are on fire. You have to flee. Why are you standing here? What are you waiting for?" فبكت, she cried, وقالت يا شيخ إن لنا عليلا وهو لا يتمكن من الجلوس والنهوض، فكيف أفارقه وقد أحاطت به النار. We have a sick man in this tent, the Imam Zayn al-Abidin. Zainab said, "How can I leave him in this tent while it is caught on fire?" از آن ترسم که آتش برفروزد میان خیمه بیمارم بسوزد. از آن ترسم که آتش شعله گیرد میان خیمه بیمارم بمیرد. What about tonight? What happened tonight, ya Mawalin? Oh, Shi'at Abi Abdullah. Sayyid Zainab, she gathered all the children and the women in a burnt tent, and she would calm down the children. One would say, "Oh, Amma, where is my father?" The other would say, "Amma, where is my uncle?" And she would calm them down one by one. أمسى المساء والنار ما خلت لنا خيار. أمسى المساء والنار ما خلت لنا خيار. صيوان ما ظل تلتجي فياها الأيتام. أقبل علينا الليل وازدادت الوحشة وما أشوف غير أيتام تتصارخ بدهشة. وشيخ العشيرة حسين ما حد شال نعشه مطروح وبجنبه علي الأكبر وجسام. So Sayyida Zainab, she gathered the children and she counted them one by one. How many are present? Then she sees some children are missing. Ajarakumullah ya Mawalin. She looks after them outside the tents and she finds Hamida, the daughter of Muslim ibn Aqil. She was trampled by the horses and she was dead outside of the tents. Then she looks for the sons of Abdul Rahman ibn Aqil. Where does she find them? She finds them in a ditch. تراهما معتنقين نائمين. She finds them holding each other. They were hugging each other and they were asleep. فلما حركتهما فإذا هم قد ماتا عطشا وخوفا. When she moved them, she saw them, they were dead out of thirst and out of horror and out of fear. The two children were horrified and they died out of fear when the enemy attacked the tents. هذه يتاماكم تلوذ ببعضها ولكم نساء تلتجي بنسائي. لا أضحك الله سن الدهر إن ضحكت وآل أحمد مظلومون قد قهروا. اللهم تقبل منا هذا القليل بأحسن قبولك. اللهم اقضي حوائج المحتاجين وأدي دين المديونين. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج واجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه والممتثلين لأوامره. إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات. الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد